butt sex.
Blog Talk Radio.
Thanksgiving, everybody. Yes, I understand that's a week and a day from now, but we won't be doing a show on Thanksgiving. So, excuse me. And the show before Thanksgiving, we'll be reviewing the new Metallica album, at least half of it. So this is our Thanksgiving show, and again, I apologize for dying in the middle of this intro. Every year since we started, since we came up with the idea of doing this over the last couple, Robert Cooper and I have nominated what we like to call our turkey. So in celebration of Thanksgiving and turkey and poultry and togetherness and wonderfulness and metal, we pick a shitty album, okay? We go through the metal archives and we look for something that's just terrible. Past luminaries have included Metallica's Saint Anger, and I believe last year we did it all for the Nookie. We did Limp Bizkit's Greatest Hits, and boy did we have fun with that one. This year, I dug deep. I initially had planned to do a Poison album. I think we were going to do Look What the Cat Dragged In. Maybe we'll do that next year, but there was talk. I think it was Cooper actually who may have brought this up with Jesse about doing Anthrax Stomp 442. And I know for me it's one of my least, I don't want to say it's least favorite because that might imply that there's something about it I like. This actually might be one of my most hated metal albums I've ever heard, mostly because it was the follow-up to one of my favorite albums ever, The Sound of White Noise, the first of the John Bush-Era Anthrax era. And so, as much as I love that album, and I got to see Anthrax for the first time with John Bush when that came out, and to this day, I could listen to the entire Sound of White Noise straight through, and I don't think there's a bad song on there, in my opinion. I was anticipating the follow-up to be even better. And it's kind of like asking a woman to marry you that you've been dating for a long time, and and you're living together and everything is going well, and and she's totally devoted to you, and you go to propose to her and she just kicks you in the balls and walks out the door. From out of nowhere. There's no explanation, just kicking the balls, and you're wondering, how did we get here? That has probably been my best assessment of Stomp 442, the album we'll be reviewing tonight. God, this piece of shit. It is the very definition of bland and samey and awful. And what better way to just rake this album over the coals than for us to go back and review it tonight and just tell you how bad it really was. Of course, I am not alone. I am joined by my co-host, Robert Cooper, the Metal Coop. How you doing, sir?
I am doing a lot better than this album is. But, like, listening to this album, like I said, I'd only listened to, like, King Size and I think Fueled, and that was about it. And I was like, okay, well, you know, there's some good drive to this album. And that was, like, 4 or 5 years ago. So I was fairly uninformed. I'm not going to say uninformed, but my tastes weren't quite as refined. So I would kind of be like, okay, well, it's Anthrax. That's fine. Yeah, hoo boy. This album is pretty bad. And side note, something I'm sure Jesse will be able to appreciate. I don't know if he ever plays Pokemon, but I have officially grinded the holy fuck out of this game. 40 hours, 3 badges.
Damn.
Super.
How are you playing this, sir?
Can I at least introduce you, for God's sake?
No. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, the host of Source Material and currently competing for the Homer Award of Shut the Fuck Up and Let Me Introduce You. Ladies and gentlemen, Jesse Starcher. How you doing, sir?
I display it proudly on my mantle that I do not have. Doing well, gentlemen. Stomp 442. I don't know what you guys got me into here. I can't wait to hear you guys basically lacerate and obliterate this thing left and right. You guys saw what I had to do I had to work my way up to this just to figure out how fucking far this album fell from what was before. And we'll get to that.
Hang on, because as much as I know Robert wanted to finish his point about Pokemon, and I want to let him, I just need to know, am I right or am I wrong about Sound of White Noise?
I got halfway through it today, okay? So I cannot give you a full assessment on the rest of those songs. It was good for what I heard. I really, really enjoyed the album that came before that. The one you were like, it's all right. Persistence of Time, I like that one a lot more. Or at least that was my favorite of what I've heard so far. So
you liked it more than Among the Living? Because as I said to you on Messenger today, Among the Living was kind of the belladonna peak of Anthrax. You know, between the formation of the band and the end of the Joey Belladonna era, I thought they peaked with Among the Living.
Okay. I think Persistence of Time spoke a little bit more to me than, well, like I said, I think it was Among the Living was the one that was catching my ear, where I was like, okay, this stuff's getting pretty good. And then Persistence of Time, I seem to enjoy quite a few tracks off of that. Of course, again, I only listened to each one of those albums leading up to it, including Stomp 442, once in my entire life so far. So that stuff may change as I continue to grow and wean myself more into the Anthrax discography.
I implore you to listen to the entire Sound of White Noise album again.
Oh, it'll happen. Definitely, it'll happen. And again.
All right, Cooper, Pokemon. You have 50 words. Go.
Pokemon Go.
Oh, I don't even play that. Yeah, the new one's coming out like in 2 days. I'm probably not going to buy it first thing off, but yeah, 40 hours and 3 badges is extreme, but that's because I'm taking all the ones that are going to be good Pokemon and just kind of grinding them to a high level, which if anybody who plays JRPGs knows, it's a good idea.
There you go.
Last time I played a Pokemon game, I ended up against more or less the final boss, quote unquote, and just got my ass whipped. It took me 45 minutes to beat that woman because she had a fucking overpowered Pokemon that just beat my ass. But as for Anthrax, Fistful of Metal, some really good songs, but overall kind of forgettable. Spreading Disease, great album. I think Among the Living is one of the best. One of the best from the 80s, if you ask me. Especially I Am the Law, because that's about Judge Dredd.
Oh yeah, that one stuck out to me. I remember that one. I remember that track. I like that one.
I think Persistence of Time is a good album. It's got a lot of good elements, but some of the songwriting I feel kind of falls flat. I like Sound of White Noise a lot. Sound of White Noise is definitely the best of the Bush era. And then We've Come For You All, which is an 03, is a fairly good album. It's not nearly as good as Sound of White Noise, but I feel like that's the number 2 of the Bush era. Stomp 442, though.
Stomp 442 is the number 2.
like 1995 is like a void of metal, or at least mainstream American metal, because there's lots of good stuff that came out in '95.
As we proceed through this review, I did grab some links of some of the top metal albums in '95 and hard rock albums also. So we can definitely dive into that just to kind of compare what the landscape was for metal and hard rock at that point in time.
We do, and everyone can get to playing some music here, but I think Jesse, it comes to natural review to talk about why you never listen to before now. That's fine. I actually want to do something a little bit different. I did this on casual. This on Long Ruin last night. I did a list.
Oh, hey! No wonder you're thinking Casual Heroes.
Yeah, but this list is more relevant. I think this was actually compiled by a member of the band, the drummer Charlie Benanti, whose drumming is lacking even on this album, and normally he's an amazing drummer. This came out earlier this year, February of 2016. Noisy.vibe.com. He ranked 10 of Anthrax's albums, and even he thought Stomp 442 was one of the worst. Coming in dead last was Fistful of Metal from 1984, and they asked him, why is this your favorite? Well, I don't think that record actually sounds like Anthrax. They played Death Rider and Metal Thrashing Mad. I really enjoy when they play that. I've actually heard them play it live. And then the rest of the album is like, yeah, let's not talk about it. Here's what he had to say about Stomp 442. It was a very weird one for the band. It will carry over to the next album I talk about. But at this point in our career, we were on Elektra Records. This is the second album we made for them. First was Sound of White Noise, which did really well. At the end of the cycle for Sound of White Noise, Elektra Rich went the whole thing. It was a coup. And basically, the regime that signed was put out, and they brought in a bunch of new people. They did not want to inherit a lot of the Elektra Act. We were one of those acts. But contractually, they had to put this record out. So we knew that going into this record, the people that signed this record, we were no longer there. We felt like this stepchild. So we did our best to make the best record we could, but it didn't matter if it was the greatest record of all time. They just weren't going to do anything with it. So it was a very tough time for us. And I think that have dark views about the record. The good side is that Dimebag Darrell hit on the record and really brightened it up. That's the one good thing about that record. Well, I think the one thing about that record you should remember, Charlie, is that it's also terrible. Whatever was going on with the band at the time, you can't get away from the fact that just musically it lacks. You know, things I said before. But let's kind of whip through this. The next one is an act, and I don't think I've ever listened to. I think I was so upset after Stomp 442 that I actually refused to listen to Anthrax for a while. So in 1998, when Volume 8, The Threat Is Real came out, I said, I don't care. I just don't care.
You got they shit the bed.
Yeah, I was mad at the band. So I don't think I've ever listened to Volume 8, The Threat. It might be important, but I can't now. But he ranked it one step above. Just putting this because I do have fond memories of making records. We had record company problems as well, and this is part of the alternative period. What do we do with a heavy metal band? And it just moved on from there. Number 7, State of Euphoria, and was seminal Anthrax albums. We've Come For You All, again, the other really good John Bush album. Not as good as Sound of White Noise, but still good. I have fond memories of you. I think this is when I got back into the band again. This is 2003 now. Sound of White Noise comes in at number 5. Again, one of my favorite albums of all time. Jesse's favorite, Persistence in Time, comes in at number 4. Number 3, Spreading the Disease from 1985. Number 2, Worship Music, of all things. That's the one. I didn't think this would rank that high. This was
Did you listen to Worship Music?
I reviewed it, if I remember correctly. And number 1, once again, I am vindicated, gentlemen. Number 1 Anthrax album, according to Charlie Benante and Mark Radulich, Among the 1987. There you have it.
There you go.
All right, if you want to pepper in as we go through this, Jay, some of these other songs here from 1995, let us know it wasn't a complete washout when it comes to music. That'll be fine. Can you just real quick? And then we'll jump right into the first song here. This is probably one of the gayest titles I've ever heard, quite frankly. What took you so long? Why have you not listened to tracks prior to the suggestion we review this album?
Again, it's one of those things where it was a matter of just finding the time to sit down and listen to them and give them some thought. I think their most popular song that I know of is the one that they did with Public Enemy. At least I say it's the most popular. It's the one that put Anthrax on the radar for me. And that was, man, I can't even remember. It was, say it again.
Noise, and that's the name of the song is Bring the Noise, and it's a Public Enemy song. So,
oh, yes, okay. And Anthrax was backing them up when they sung it.
The song originally was on, I believe, not Fear of a Black Planet, but Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back. And then they re-recorded the song with Anthrax, with Scott Ian doing, like...
Okay, so, yeah, that was probably the extent of my Anthrax knowledge. And they had a ton of albums out that I always, I just passed up. I was like, I wasn't interested. And they're the big. What's funny is that they're counted as one of the big four, and that just we got. Let's see, what are the big four? We got Megadeth, Metallica, right?
Yep.
Is Exodus the third?
Nope.
Help me out with the third.
Motherfucker.
Slayer.
Yeah.
And that's another band. So that's another band that I know nothing about is Slayer. I can name Megadeth and Metallica songs easy and probably sing them along with you. Slayer, Raining Blood, and that's about it. And then we got Anthrax, and that very minimalistic knowledge whatsoever for Slayer or Anthrax. So what better time to dip my toes. These guys have got some albums, though. I mean, what a discography. Going back to, like, what was it, 84?
Yeah.
80. I mean, that's really crazy that I've never given them a chance up till now. And they got a lot of good stuff, too. What I've listened to up till now, I know this is not a retrospective or anything episode that we're getting into, but I've enjoyed a lot of what I listened to over the past couple days. So, shame on me. How's that?
All right. So 2 things. 1, I'm going to go ahead and play the first track, Random Acts of Senseless Violence, and then the second thing I'm going to do is Jesse now has homework. I'm going to make you a playlist of just
I
Slayer.
can't wait. Oh boy.
I'm going to make you a Slayer playlist on Spotify. You need to listen, make notes, and be prepared to talk about this on the next show before we talk about Metallica.
All right then.
So I did 10 or 12 of the best Slayer songs of your time with Diablos and Musica and some of the same that they all over the last couple of years. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Slayer. If I could see Slayer and Anthrax and Death Angel in October, I would have. But it's just I have seen Slayer probably about as many times as I've seen Touch. And at some point, you just gotta stop.
I look forward to it.
All right. So that said, let's go ahead and if you're having trouble hearing me, I'm not sure what the issue is. Some of it is still getting over a cold from the day after election, and so my throat kind of goes in and out. It might also just be the mic and the computer, and could be Blog Talk, could be Nargles. Who knows?
Warnolf.
Better lately. All right, here we go. Stomp 442, our 2016 Turkey album. This is track 1, Random Acts of Senseless Violence. I mean, look, I'm going to try to be fair here and not just like, it's all shit. It's just, it's just a bland song. I mean, I was saying this to Robert earlier. I think one of my big problems with this is, unlike with Sound of White Noise, where music really matched the power of John Bush's vocals, I feel like they took a step back musically, where they didn't introduce a lot of the more hard rock elements to this. They sort of went back to their more thrashier stuff without the interesting guitar work and gallops and whatnot. Kept the same John Bush vocal style, and it's a mismatch. And I think this song is a good example of that, where they're going for something really powerful and violent sounding, and it just in the music and John Bush is, I mean, he has kind of a raspy singing voice, but he's still very melodic and very powerful. And it doesn't mesh well. It's individually the components are fine, but put together, it's just kind of this isn't tasty.
Not good. Coop, what do you think, man?
So I was trying to confirm a theory here. Okay, so I can confirm a theory here. One of my problems with this song and this album in general is that it is so toothless. Most of these songs have no bite. Even when they have a distorted guitar, it's so very bland. And when I was watching the videos, I'm like, why are there 4 people here? Anthrax is typically a 5-piece. And now I know why, because this album, Charlie Benante, the drummer, was the lead guitarist. And in Volume 8, The Threat is Real, there is Scott Ian is technically lead, but he's much more of a rhythm guitarist. So, especially with this album to me is, I guess they kind of took their sensibilities out the window that they used to have in terms of metal or what have you. I really feel like they went with a extremely radio-friendly sound There's really nothing in terms of a guitar solo. The guitar work is really basic. There's nothing really all that catchy. Even the drumming, which Charlie Benante is a wonderful drummer, it's just so bland. It's one note. John Bush sounds like he's in the wrong band. Like his voice is, sometimes it is a weird fit for Anthrax in certain songs, but it's like he's doing one thing and the band is doing something else. Like they're really trying for grunge era radio rock.
Yes, yes.
And he's trying. He's trying to keep it at least somewhat metal, even though there's some real fucking Eddie Vedder that I hear. I hear some Eddie Vedder.
It is all over this album. I mean, there's quite a bit where you're like, you know, is this? It takes me back to the '90s. It really does. And of course, hey, it came out in '95, so I guess really it should. But the thing is that, you know, when I sat down and started listening to this album today, this was the first thing I started, or excuse me, yesterday. This was the first album I started with, and it hit me as like, well, you guys are coming from a lengthy knowledge of where Anthrax was at the time and what came before this. So I didn't know that going into this album. I'm like listening to this first track, and I'm like, okay, it ain't too bad. It ain't horrible. But then I was like, wait a second. I need to step back, and I need to go back and listen from the beginning of when they started, Fistful of Metal, and work my way forward. That way I have a better idea of, you know, what this album feels like when it first dropped, and it felt like such a difference compared to what came before, and not in a good way. It felt like it was aping. They were trying to fit in somewhere. And as we go through the rest of these songs, you can see that grunge influence, not just in their songs, but in those videos you shared, Coop, for shit's sake. I mean, I thought I was watching, like, I didn't know. The guy had, like, what he had, some flannel on, some sunglasses, got his little soul patch, whatever. I mean, I was just like, damn, this is the 90s all over. And I don't know what it was like for heavy metal at the time. Coop, I know you weren't old enough. I assume that you weren't listening to this at that point in time.
It was a dark place. It was a dark place.
In 95, Mark, I'm about 1 year from going to college and being exposed to Clutch. Okay, so you want to know what my 95 was? My 95 was probably Bone Thugs and Harmony, Biggie Smalls. I was really heavy into, you know, rap, East Coast, West Coast.
You
Tupac.
are so wide.
Well, that's the way it was, dude. We didn't have shit to do around here in Ohio, for fuck's sake, man. So I listened to that. You know, that was where I was. So I have no clue as to where heavy metal was when this dropped, and where Anthrax was in the pantheon of the big four. This had to have dropped them out of, like, obscurity. Dropped them into obscurity, I should say, because it sounds like people shit on this album, and rightfully so. So I'm going to save the rest as we continue to go on. But Coop, if I cut you off, go ahead and finish what you were saying, man.
Well, upon looking at this album, I forgot to look at the guest credits. They had a lead guitarist who was Dan Spitz, who's their original guitarist. His guitar tech, who was named Paul Krug. And what does he do in other bands? He was in Sebastian Bach band for a while. He did MOD, and he did Joey Belladonna's solo stuff. Not very prolific in terms of doing much. But yeah, ugh. Even though Dimebag is apparently on songs 3 and 4, and you'd never know.
Well, you know what's funny is I came across an article doing some research, trying to find out some stuff. Supposedly Spitz says that Dimebag ripped those guitar pieces off of him, or just copies of what Spitz wrote. So that might be why you wouldn't know. So now that's putting a lot of credit into what Spitz is saying. And I don't know if this guy's a bullshitter or whatever, but I mean, if that's the case, that might be why it seems like he blends in so well.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and play the next track, and then I'm going to share. I went a little overboard. 23 songs, about an hour and 40 minutes of music on this list.
Excuse me.
Let's go ahead and next track. This is one of the singles. Talking to some people earlier that are metal aficionados, and they were like, yeah, Stomp 442 is mostly shit, but Fuel's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be the judge of that. Here's what I'm going to say. It's fine. I think if they keep this in the set and play it live and don't play anything else on this album, we're fine. It's not a great song, not the best song I've ever heard. It's a good song for Anthrax to play live. And it might be the best song, which makes it. There's nothing interesting about it. There's nothing, there's nothing about it that makes me go, oh, wow. This is the Anthrax that I know and love. It's just fine. It's just there. It's, it's parsley on the dish.
Coop?
Yeah, I'm here. Did he say parsley on the dashboard?
Not the Jesus on the dashboard. No, I said parsley on. It's just garnish. It's just there. It's offensive, bad. It's like, it makes the look at it, but nothing more to it than that.
Yeah, this is getting really choppy, by the way, Mark. It almost sounds like cayenne tie.
Okay. I'm doing my best to talk into my ear, using the my computer. It's one of those nights. I don't know what to tell you. Jesse, do you have anything to say?
Give me fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire.
Ooh, yeah.
Good song. I liked it. I didn't think it was horrible. I kind of agree with people that say it's decent. I thought it was okay. Was this one of the videos we watched, Coop?
It might have been. I think it was the first one.
Okay, it was the first one. And that was definitely straight out of 95. Okay.
Oh yeah. And the thing I chuckled about was John Bush wearing the flannel with the glasses.
Can you guys tell me why? Okay, this guy was on the White Noise album, right? John Bush?
Uh-huh.
Why do people feel like this one is such a bad fit for him? Is it just because of what they're playing that he doesn't fit in compared to what it was before? I can't remember too many songs off of what I listened to today. So was he singing in a different style on White Noise?
They were playing a different style.
Okay. All right.
Style and White Noise had felt more like a groove metal meets Pantera. This feels like hard rock at best.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the thing is that the style they're going for is personified a lot in a more, maybe I should say smooth, more perhaps maybe melodic vocalist, except for Eddie Vedder, he doesn't count. Eddie Vedder just sounds like your drunk uncle getting up to get more turkey. Hand me the gravy man. Yeah, it's
the gravy man.
Hand me the gravy man. And actually, you know what? He does have a certain melody. John Bush's vocals are very pointed. I don't know if there's any real way to say it. I'm adding a personification to a. I'm trying to make it into a physical thing. His vocals have a real kind of bite and a real jab to them in a way. I feel like it works really well in maybe a harder metal, like a harder heavy metal album. But for something that's hard rock, that's supposed to be more of a radio friendly album, I really don't feel like they figured out how to do it well until We've Come for You All. Which some of the songs on that, I'm like, yeah, that was for the radio, but it fit. This here was like John Bush sat in on, like they decided to do almost like what got Dio kicked out of Black Sabbath, where like they'd mix the album and then like I think Tony Iommi would go behind him and mix it a different way. Like they just keep doing that. Like I feel like they sat in on the. I feel like they decided to do one thing, and then when John Bush left the room, they must have changed something on it.
It doesn't. I can feel that. It doesn't flow.
It doesn't. It's like I said. It's like I don't know. It's like two different bands are playing at the same time. This song here, good song, honestly. One of the few songs on this album, and I'm like, okay, I could put that on the iPod and maybe skip it only half the time. Yeah, but yeah, this album is. Ugh.
What we're saying is we don't like it. If that wasn't clear. All right, what I got, Coop. Let me know if I've missed anything important. And these are my alphabetical album. All right, so in no particular order, Jihad from Christ Illusion, Come from Diabolus in Musica, Disciple from God Hates Us All, Here Comes the Pain from All, Payback from God Hates Us All, Hell Awaits, Black Magic, Die by the Sword, The Antichrist, Chemical Warfare, their cover of Born to be Wild, Angel of Death, Jesus Saves, Raining Blood, War Ensemble, Dead Skin Mask, Seasons in the Abyss, Silent Scream, Mandatory Suicide, Ditto Head, their cover of with Ice-T, Disorder, South of Heaven, and World Painted Blood. Anything I missed that you can think of?
There's one that's on the tip of my tongue. Give me a second. Did you put God Hates Us All on there?
That's Disciple.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Disciple. Give me a second. There's a song that's on the tip of my tongue on the end of fucking. Damn it! It's on the end of South of Heaven. Let me look at this here. Damn it! Why is so much?
I'm gonna go ahead and play another song, and we'll come back to this.
Okay.
All right. This is the track that, speaking of which, the Dimebag Darrell plays on. This is King Size.
I wanna be part of the whole damn thing.
verse from we're only into track 3 here, but we're already into. I mean, look, I understand a certain degree of popularity, for certain genres of music. I think I'm listening to this going, do you not listen to much thrash metal? And I do. I listen to tons. You can play thrash and make it interesting drum, guitar work, make the song and not, and have something stand out. I think that I keep coming back to it. Let's assume that Fueled is the high watermark of this album. There's too much on it that sounds just like Fueled. Like, if I was paying attention, I would have assumed King Size, would have assumed King Size was part of Fueled, and it was just a very long.
Yeah,
so that's
two-parter.
What is this type? 1 minute long. Jesse?
Let me tell you first off, lyrically, this song is ahead of its time. And you want to know why, Mark? It's actually plugging one of my shows at the beginning of next year, which will be Old Man Logan, where the Hulk actually takes over California in the future. So just to let you know, by the way, I don't know if you caught that, Mark, but he refers to the Hulk like 3 or 4 times in this song. I figure you'd be a big fan. Apparently not. Even the Hulk can't make Mark Radulich a fan of Anthrax Stomp 442. One of my favorite things, which I might actually be using here as we go forward throughout the Metal Hammer of Doom, is a nice little site I found called Word Count Tools. Okay? And I don't know if you guys have ever used the website, but what it will allow me to do is I can copy and paste song lyrics into this thing and give you it will actually give me a readability level of like who could understand these lyrics. Like for example, I just slapped in King Size here, and the readability level is a 7th to 8th grade student. That's good. That means that a 7th to 8th grade student can 299 words. Now, let me tell you why I thought of this today. I was reading that same article I mentioned earlier where Spitz was talking about how Dimebag had taken his riffs or his guitar piece that he had wrote and just basically played it. Anyway, one of the things that he was talking about, they asked him if he was one of the ones that fired Belladonna. And one of the things that he mentioned was Belladonna didn't feel comfortable in Anthrax because he had to read like 7,000 words in a verse. And I was like, you know what? Looking at these lyrics, they pack in a shit ton of words in a song. So apparently Belladonna didn't feel like this was something that he could showcase his vocal range very well. When you're reading, I think one of these songs has seriously close to, I'm pretty sure 700 words in it. And that is a lot of lyrics. So anyway, word count tools will be used from here on out. Just to let you know, there are 15% apparently of this song are considered difficult words. So the other 85, you should be just fine understanding what they're trying to get across here. What do you think of that, Coop?
I think that is an impressive analysis tool that you have uncovered. And I also think that this song is about a mattress.
A mattress? King size.
The only reason I say that is... What was that?
No, I was asking if you figured out I was missing the player mix.
Yes. Well, 2 of them, actually. Dissident Aggressor, which is, that Priest cover on South of Heaven. And Spill the Blood. That was what I was thinking of.
Okay, Adam. What was it?
Cool.
It was Spill the Blood. What was the other?
I was not hearing. What? I thought I said that. Yeah, it was Dissident Aggressor.
Dissident Aggressor, I think. Go on with what you're saying.
More analysis, Coop. What else about the song?
Okay. I'm wondering, it must be my phone at this point. Yeah, song analysis. The reason I say it's about a mattress is because the video for this that I found, somebody cobbled it together, and it was just a bunch of compilations of things that happened to be king size. Mattresses, candy bars.
YouTube. Sequel of which is Fun Size. That would be a fun song to write.
I'm sure it's about I'm sure it's about getting a bunch of midget prostitutes and training them all. I think we're in the wrong. I think we're in the wrong band here. That might be a Lord song.
All right. This is track 4. This is Riding Shotgun.
Oh.
Look, I got something positive about that one. I think musically.
Come on. Beat it, lick it, choke it, suck it. What the fuck, man? This is like, go ahead. What's your positive here?
Positive is you strip out the vocals, the lyrics and everything. I actually think musically it's an interesting song. As compared to what else is on there. They changed some interesting things with that one. I like the beat. And then he started singing. And as much as I like John Bush, again, this is the classic example of he's not doing anything good to this song. And yes, lyrics are pretty ridiculous. I giggled in the middle of the song. I usually am good at staying quiet when the song's playing. But as soon as he started doing live it, be it, hold it, touch it, kick it, beat it, love it, suck it, I was like, I can't fucking hold back the giggles. I just can't. Because it's that fucking bad. I mean, the only thing I'm going to say about this song is lyrically, I think this is one of the worst off of this album. Yeah, shit.
Maybe this is a song about Kurt Cobain.
Oh no.
Yeah. I'm beginning to wonder if perhaps like the ball on this cover, the album cover, is just like all the shit that they could think of for an album concept that worked. And then if you look, there's nothing. Just one big ball of shit that they just started, and then a naked guy in his ass.
So, a copy of the Wikipedia because there was some reviews here. quote from all reviewers, Erlewine, who said, it's a generic collection of speed metal bomb mess. I don't even know if it's called speed metal.
I don't get that impression.
Spot on.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if I would consider this speed metal in any way, in my opinion. I don't know about you guys, but that doesn't feel like it to me. Coop, what do you think, man? I mean, we've called it hard rock so far. I mean, why would this guy call this speed metal?
This is about as close to speed metal as I am to being a Latin American pop superstar.
Rico Suave.
Rico Suave. That's right.
Nice. Very nice.
Thank you. Yeah, I would say I'm halfway to being Selena, but that's not a good outcome, so.
Taco. This track, Perpetual. What was the writing experience for this film? You know, it was like, hey, we've got some we've got some beats. And John, what do you think lyrically? I want to write a lot that sounds like I'm driving a car.
Going down the road and I'm loaded. I just wrote a song. John Bush, pay me.
Loaded, roaded, voted. All right.
And I'm rolling.
Oh, I was going to say, I think Limp Bizkit did a song about driving a little better.
They did.
Well, that makes me want to Limp Bizkit just hits out. Plug that one into your website there. I want to see what the reading for that one's like.
Sir, you would be surprised. Readability level, 9th to 10th grade student. 317 words. The longest, would you like to know the longest sentence? I didn't think that I was. That old my story is. That obviously got broke up somehow. That is not a sentence.
This is why the Chinese will beat us. Coop, anything real quick? I'm going to go on the track 6.
This song is Perpetually Mediocre.
Good one.
And the YouTube video for this had just people, video clips of people driving in perpetual motion.
Super.
I will tell you that I'm seeing a trend on here on word count tools that the word "I'm" is usually the most frequently used word in these songs. The last one I had the top word was "I'm." This one right here, 5.4% in the lyrics, used 17 times. the word I'm. Of course, he's ready to take. I'm ready to take my turn. I'm ready to take my turn. That's yeah. There we go. Very, very. What would you call that, Mark? Somebody that focuses. There's a word for that. That always focuses on themselves.
Absorbed.
Narcissistic.
There we go. That's what I was looking for.
Or maybe it was egocentric.
All right, this is track 6. I wish it was Highway to a Danger Zone. It's a much better song, but instead we've just got Zone. Coop, I know we've talked in the past about bro-tacular music, and Hatebreed being king of the bros, but I don't, Five Finger Death Punch being tough guy music. But I feel like, if that had its roots in anything, I feel like that's what Anthrax was going for here. It was that sort of tough guy metal, but it comes across as even douchier than the douchiest Hatebreed.
Well, because I feel like the douchiest of Hatebreed, at least, is it's trying for something and is at least self-aware of that fact. I feel like this song is like, I'm a man. Yeah, which it's funny because this song, all I could think of the entire time is Ken Shamrock. Except this was far before Ken Shamrock's WWF run. So really, they have no excuse. Quite frankly, they're just really trying way too hard to make up for the fact that they're attempting to be radio-friendly rock gods by throwing in a big, beefy man song in there. Yeah.
All right. So this was recorded. This hasn't been recorded between like 94 and 95. I'll take a look real quick. But Jesse, I mean, I guess it begs the question: who the hell did they think they were competing with? You know what? Recorded at Studio 4, Conshohocken, Pennsylvania, 1995. So in 1995, they looked around at the world and saw what their competition was and decided, yeah, we need to sound like tough douchebags too. So what came out in 1995 that would have pushed them into this terrible direction?
Oh, man, I don't know. Here's what we'll do. We'll look at Loudwire's best metal albums of 1995, okay? We'll start with the metal side of things, and we'll just kind of see if you can see any potential influence or maybe we'll just say similarity between these bands' albums and what we've got here. Now, we're talking the top bands of 95. If they're going into 95 saying, okay, I want to be like these guys, most other bands, that are not the top 4 are probably going to be doing something similar. So let's just take a look here. All right. Number 10 on the list. We'll count them down 10 to 1. Number 10 album they've got listed here is Demanufactured by Fear Factory.
Which was amazing.
Okay. All right. Now, if you want to step in and say, okay, I could see the similarity, go ahead. If you want to step in and say, there's no fucking way, then go right ahead. Next one is a band I've never heard of. Well, maybe I have, but I don't know if I've ever listened to anything. Land of the Free by Gamma Ray.
Gamma Ray is like a progressive metal band. So if that's what they were inspired by, I don't see the connection.
Okay. This is not. Go ahead, Coop. You want to step in, or what are you thinking?
I was going to chime in on Gamma Ray. I think Gamma Ray is a lot. If we're thinking Land of the Free, I think that's more almost speed metal influence. Give me a second here. I think so. Yeah, about a power speed metal. Oh God, why is everybody shirtless?
What's going on? What site did you go
Gamma
to?
Ray, on Metal Archive, their band photo, like it's not like them sitting out like Manowar style, but everybody's shirtless and they're old and white. Yeah, Land of the Free, I'd definitely give that kind of a power speed metal thing. Great album though, absolutely wonderful.
Okay. Next up, number 8, Down with NOLA or NOLA. I know this album very well.
Okay, I would say you know the album. It's amazing. It's one of my favorites. They've never been as good as their debut album. This was after the sort of Pantera blow up. Really, some of Phil Anselmo's best work. NOLA is a fantastic album, and this is nothing like NOLA.
All right, next up, number 7, Battles in the North by Immortal. I don't know a thing about these guys. Obviously, it sounds very, Norwegian for sure.
Oh, I love that album.
Number 6, Astro Creep 2000, White Zombie. Number 5, The Angel in the Dark River by My Dying Bride. Never heard of them.
Love My Dying Bride.
Pierced from Within by Suffocation.
Yes.
Storm of the Light's Bane by Dissection.
Oh, they have good taste.
Symbolic by Death.
Duh.
And number 1, Slaughter of the Soul by At the Gates.
By At the Gates, yes, the seminal Gothenburg melodic death metal album. Really kind of helped open the gates there, no pun intended.
So what do you think here? Go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask, what were the 10 hard rock albums out of that year?
Oh, you want to go ahead and get into those? How about we play? You want to play another track, and then we'll get into the next 10, and we'll see. First off, let me ask: does any of what we've listened to here on Stomp 442 sound like anything what we listed there in the top 10?
No, they ran as far away from any of that as fast as they could.
So this is okay, and this is our top 4.
Say, I could hear a little bit of like that new metal that they were. I could hear little tinges of it.
All right. In what band are we talking about here on the top 10?
Fear Factory.
Okay. All right.
No,
so
you're out of your
number
fucking
10.
mind. There's no way they sound anything like Fear Factory.
I put them with new metal.
Okay, but I wouldn't put what? Fear Factory is not new metal. It never was. It never will be. Number 1. Number 2. This couldn't be further from anything Fear Factory's ever done.
I see.
Like, I don't know how you're making that connection. We'll revisit this.
I think I mixed up industrial and new metal. Yeah, I think I mixed them up. Because honestly, I don't listen to any industrial metal, so I kind of get the two of them mixed with new metal sometimes.
Okay.
Mark, I'll go ahead and go to the next list if you want me to, or we can play a track. What do you want to do?
Let's play nothing. Here we go.
Irgendwo, auf einem ruhigen Bahnhof in der Nähe von Düsseldorf, eine ahnungslose Kuh leidet unter einer seltsamen Krankheit.
All right. So two things about that song, and then we can get back to this debate, this debate here that we're having, or this list. So that was one of the singles, and honestly, it's definitely one of the better songs on here. It also sounds like a bonus track that didn't quite make it to Sound of White Noise, and they just kind of wrote an album around it. Like, we have this extra music that we need to do something with. Fuck it, we'll throw it on the next album. Wait, we need more music then. Here, Perpetual Motion. So, nothing's fine. I think it's actually better than Fueled. It's more of the style with John Bush that I like. But it's, that's the best I can say about it. Is it's one of the better songs in a sea of garbage. All right, so go ahead and if we're done with this, if we're done calling fucking Fear Factory Limp Bizkit.
I think you made him mad, Coop. Jeez.
Oh,
all right.
Well, what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? At least if he starts yelling at you, I mean, obviously his mic hates him tonight, so it'll be funny to hear him get pissed off and start yelling, and every other syllable coming out.
Just sitting there going, huh?
All right. 1995 best hard rock albums. Okay, here we go. Now, again, jump in if you guys think this sounds similar to what's on this list. All right, number 10, Filter with Short Bus.
Okay.
Coop's going to throw up in his mouth before the end of this list is over. Actually, there's a couple bright spots on here that I really like. Number 9, Fugazi with Red Medicine. I don't know those guys at all.
Nope, got me.
Number 8, this is a prominent band that I'm aware of. Primus, Tales from the Punch Bowl.
They had a really good Rob Zombie album this year.
This next album,
known as Big Brown Beaver. Big Brown Beaver.
Great stuff. Number 7, one of my favorite albums, Mad Season, Above. I think I really like that album. Now, see, that stuff right here is where I start to see similarities between Anthrax, Stomp 442, and some of the stuff that Above was more laid back than obviously what we're getting here, because Anthrax, I think they were aware of their reputation in 95 and felt like, hey, we've got to put some shit out that really is, it's fast-paced up until, of course, we get to the last song where we'll send everybody off so they can go to fucking sleep, which we'll talk about that here and when we get to Bear. But anyway, number 6. Did you guys want to say anything about Above, anything like that before we move on to number 6?
I hated Mad Season when it came out.
Okay. All right.
Just put share.
That's good. Good enough. AC/DC number 6 with Ball Breaker in 95.
Oh my God, that had to have been one of the worst AC/DC albums ever.
It's largely okay. I got it from a Goodwill.
Classic. Nice. Well, Coop gets a lot of stuff from the Goodwill, so you can find some good stuff there too. Classic songs such as Hard as a Rock, Cover You in Oil, and Hail Caesar. Now, I know Hard as a Rock, and that's it. Cover You in Oil and Hail Caesar, I know nothing about that album. All right, number 5. Oh, Green Day, Insomniac.
Great album.
Yes, it is. Number 4, made my punk list, I believe, Rancid, and Out Come the Wolves. Now, a lot of these vary, so we got a bunch of punk listed in here. Number 3, Foo Fighters with Foo Fighters, 1995. Now, this is probably the band, this number 2 one is probably the band that I see the most similarities with. And Coop, you mentioned to us earlier who you thought it sounded like, but it was a bad version of these guys, and that's Alice in Chains with Alice in Chains at number 2. I see a lot of grunge influence on what Anthrax is doing here. That's just me. I don't know. Go ahead.
That Anthrax album, that was the follow-up, right, to, the one with them bones on it. Oh, Dirt. That was the follow-up to had like the green cover with the dog with 3 legs.
Yep, you got it.
That album really made me suicidal. It was so bad. I remember thinking at the time, this has got to be some of the worst music I've ever heard. I don't think I want to live on this planet anymore.
Oh my gosh, no, man. Alice in Chains is one of my favorite albums that they've done.
Folks, this has been the Metal Hammer of Doom. We want to thank Jeff for being a part of it. He can't come back anymore.
Bullshit. Yeah, so I see the grunge influence, and I'm surprised in 95, apparently Pearl Jam hadn't dropped anything, or at least it didn't make the top 10. Number 1, by the way, Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness by Coop's favorite group, the Smashing Pumpkins.
Actually not a bad album.
Speak out of turn, Coop.
I mean, actually, I don't mind the Smashing Pumpkins. I mean, hey,
okay.
At least Billy Corgan's trying to save TNA wrestling.
We're all behind you, Billy.
You know, I'm starting to realize. I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead with what you're saying.
I was saying I think he's pretty much lost the injunction. And it's really funny because Dixie Carter is about as good a businesswoman as I am a pickup artist.
So, as I look back on music from 94 and 95, I'm starting to, and I'm remembering, like how I felt about a lot of music that was popular of the time and where it drove me to. Because remember, 94, I graduated high school in the summer of 94. And, my first year of college starts August of 94 and runs till the spring of 95. So we're talking the end of high school, beginning of college for me, when a lot of this music is starting to hit. I want to say that, as much as I like that first debut album by Pearl Jam, I think it's called 10.
Yes.
Yeah, Vitology came out in 1994. And that was when it was just like, music sounds better when it's on the vinyl. So, yeah. So there was like a big deal about it being released. Vitology was a big deal about it being released as a vinyl when the whole world had moved to CDs by this point. And I remember thinking like Vitology, the Alice in Chains self-titled album, and a couple of others were, in my opinion, like 94, 95, so fucking bad that I was like, music sucks. These bands suck. Radio sucks. It's all terrible. I can't listen to any. This might have been what caused me to reject anything that anyone liked. It pushed that far away from the mainstream because dude, Vitology actually got me in trouble once. I hated it so much because I really liked 10, and Versus was pretty good too. And then it was just a steep decline with Pearl Jam after that. I think I wrote them off after Vitology because I hated it so much. I remember working in a record store. It was my cousin's record store, and I made a joke. Like, the worst thing about a guy picked up, it was either Vitology or No Code. I don't remember which one it was. Now I don't think about it. It might have also been Yield. It was one of those three albums. And I made a joke about, that's the one bad thing about working in a record store is you got to touch the Pearl Jam stuff. And
I think it's funny.
And you wouldn't believe it. I got in trouble for that. Apparently, my boss didn't think that was funny. So.
Oh, damn.
But yeah, a couple of things I'm able to pull from talking about this. One, I can definitely see where the guys in Anthrax, who had been around since the early '80s, were like, what do we do to stay relevant with the kids at this point? And didn't really sort of embrace the sort of attitude that I think a lot of them finally got to, which is fuck it. Let's just do what makes us happy, and people will follow us or they won't. But there's no point in trying to stay ahead of the trends or try to be the cool grandpas because it doesn't work. Also the mid '90s may have been the worst period of music in the history of mankind.
Well, I mean, we looked at those top 10 metal albums, and there was, like I said, there's nothing like that on what we're hearing here. Everything seemed, at least, I mean, of the bands that I know, it certainly it doesn't sound as mainstream as Anthrax does here. So I agree with you, Mark. I mean, 95 was pretty rough. Dude, I'll get into this at some point later on in the Metal Hammer of Doom, but I was a big fan of, I'm a big fan of the grunge bands that hit in the early 90s. And like I said, when 95 hit, obviously I wasn't a big fan because I was trying to find, my newer album of E40 or something like that. But, I'll sit here and name them all fucking night, Coop.
We're sitting here talking about like what might have influenced Anthrax, and I don't know if 1995 is the best year in terms of what might have their influence have been. Stuff that would have had to have come out and hit. So let's hear another
94.
song, and I just pulled up Loudwire's hard rock albums of 1994, and the first couple of ones on here make me want to go slit my wrist. I can tell you that right off the bat. So I take music very seriously, folks. All right, this is track 8. This is American Pompeii.
I try to imagine the best place I've been. Can I go back again?
All right, so
so fucking stock, man. I was like, oh my gosh, I've heard this on every fucking 90s hard rock album ever. Throw a filter on the guy.
I feel like John Bush and Scott Ian walked into a bar full of black people and someone just yelled out, "No one gets out of here without singing the blues," and that's so broken.
That's an Adventures in Babysitting joke. Nice.
You're welcome.
Very nice. Very nice.
Coop, anything before I read off this list?
I was going to say, with 95, if you look at the Best of Metal list, most of those albums were not readily available in the U.S., or at least easily findable. Most of those were either underground European acts or European acts, or I mean, almost every album there was more of a kind of a European metal thing. Now, Death, I don't know how readily available that was, but for the most part, I could definitely see why metal was in such dire straits that year. Rockless.
Jesse, look, while I read off this list, do me a favor, go Google when Rob Zombie said, or it was either Rob Zombie or Marilyn Manson who said in the news that rock was dead, because I think this is what led to it. But the 10 best hard rock albums of 1994. Number 10, Vitology, Pearl Jam. Yep, that made me want to die. Stranger Than Fiction from Bad Religion, that one was fine. 16 Stone by Bush. I don't think at the time I fully appreciated it. Now, going back and listening to it, it's fine. If you like hard rock, it's not a terrible album, and they weren't a terrible band. I didn't like it at the time. That's more of a personal thing. This one I did like. Actually, the next two I liked a lot. Live Through This, Hole. Hole was amazing, even though Courtney Love had Kurt Cobain killed.
That's a staunch opinion I've heard you voice a couple of times.
I will never stop talking about it. So despite the fact that she promoted this album on Kurt Cobain's dead corpse after she got killed, good talented musicians and another really amazing album was Purple from Stone Temple Pilots. I think I remember liking that one a lot. And I didn't think it could get better than the one that preceded it. So good stuff there. Oh God, I remember this now, and I remember hearing it, and this may have what led me to my opinion of what followed it. But in 1995, Alice in Chains released Jar of Flies.
Oh, it's a good one.
No, it was terrible.
I loved it.
It sucked. This is just shit.
Dude, if you have the balls, you can go over to my Spotify, look at my hard rock list. Almost every Alice in Chains album is on there, right beside Clutch. You could probably even look at it. I probably put Clutch in there first because you know that's what's going to happen. But then afterwards, I'm like, who's next? Alice in Chains.
All right.
It's like I'm trying not to kick you off here.
Smash, The Offspring, that one was fine. I like that album. Super Unknown by Soundgarden. I mean, as much as I wanted to strangle Ricky Rackman and everyone producing the Headbangers Ball at the time because I got sick and tired of hearing fucking Black Hole Sun every time I either turned on the radio or turned on MTV, Super Unknown's actually a really good album. I've come to appreciate it more over the years, but even back then I recognized that Soundgarden was one of the best of the bunch. The Downward Spiral by Nine Inch Nails was amazing. Again, it was hard to believe this would get better than Nine Inch Nails would get better than Pretty Hate Machine. The Downward Spiral was really, really good, and it was probably the peak of Nine Inch Nails, though I'm sure Nine Inch Nails fans would disagree. But I don't know. I don't think there's been anything as good since. And last but not least, Dookie from Green Day. So, I mean, if you're Scott Ian and you're trying to stay relevant in the music scene, and you just don't know where you fit in anymore, and you're looking at this list, I can honestly now understand how they came up with Stomp 442. But it's absolutely a matter of them not understanding the music scene, and it's like Stomp 442 is what they think people want to hear.
Yeah, there's something to be said about them trying to make music for the masses, but you almost want to say to yourself, you know, fuck the masses, man. You're fucking Anthrax. Like, right. Do your shit.
Coop, anything before we move on?
If they're making music for somebody, obviously it was somebody that was not listening. I think the irony is, if you look at the majority of the thrash bands, Metallica went mainstream, Megadeth, well, Euthanasia was 94. That was a really good one, but they were starting to kind of make their way towards Metallica. 99 was close, oh fuck. It was actually interesting when you look at some of the other bands. Slayer I'm not going to say Slayer changed their sound too much, but they definitely didn't sound like 80s Slayer. Testament went to a far more death metal oriented direction. And
respect.
Their Demonic was a decent album. And then you look at the Teutonic bands, and they either horribly tried to do something mainstream. Sweet Jesus, there were some bad albums there. Was it Destruction that made that album that was just like nobody wants to remember? Yeah, I'll get back to y'all on that one at the next song. Holy fuck, y'all just reminded me of that.
So in defense of Anthrax and their sort of grandpa impression of the world, I'm gonna just lay this at Metallica's feet. I'm blaming Metallica officially, and here's why. So Metallica released a Black Album in 1991, it goes on to sell 16 million units. I'm looking at. It's gone 16 times platinum. I don't know what the rest of this stuff means. I'm just kind of going to read down here. And by the way, they were on Elektra at the time. In fact, they stayed on Elektra for a really long time. From Master of Puppets. Yeah, from Master of Puppets until Saint Anger, and then Death Magnetic was released on Warner Brothers. And then this next one coming out is on Metallica's record label. But the Black Album, 16 times platinum, 12 times platinum, 2 times platinum, and just it goes on and on and on and on with the amount of platinum recordings, platinum certifications rather. When you think about like the departure from Metallica, from And Justice for All to the Black Album, how many fans they picked up by becoming a more mainstream sounding hard rock band and abandoning a lot of their thrash roots just between And Justice for All and the Black Album. And, to sort of paraphrase Patton Oswalt, your lizard brain must kick in after a while and go, I want to make billions of dollars on one album.
Yeah.
I want to tour the world, for 4 or 5 years straight and sell out stadiums. So I think with the rise of the Black Album, that had to have influenced a lot of bands, not just Anthrax. And then in 1996 they followed up with Load. They ended up playing Lollapalooza. Metallica just had this run of of hard rock influenced music that was successful. I mean, there was diminishing returns here. I'm just looking at units sold. Load sold a little over 5 million. Reload a little over 4 million. Saint Anger, which you can hear Rob Cooper and I trash on this very podcast, 2 million. The most terribly recorded fucking album I've ever heard. And then so it's just, I'm more forgiving now that I'm putting this in perspective. I'm more forgiving of this album. It doesn't make it any less shitty. So with that said, no better transition could I have come up with for this next track called "Drop the Ball." Could not take another minute of that song. So I have a blog up here called angrymetalguy.com. And he's defending Stomp 442. This when was this written? This was written 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago now. I'm going to read this part of it, because it goes to what we were just talking about. Firstly, it's impossible to view Stomp 442 in a vacuum, and one must fully appreciate the musical environment that birthed it. After a decade plus of increasing mainstream acceptance, metal was riding high as the 90s began. It was serious radio and MTV airplay, album sales were brisk, and it was a time of wine and roses for all in the biz. Then Seattle dropped the Nirvana bomb, and the grim nuclear winter of grunge and alternative rock soon began to drive metal back into the dark underworld to lurk, foment, and mutter of conspiracies and grave injustices. Every metal band dealt with this harsh musical dystopia in their own way. While Metallica folded up metal shop, adopted rock and country, and dropped a load. Anthrax got righteously pissed, had an epic temper tantrum, and released Stomp 442. Yes, it's a reactionary record, as all metal albums were in those uncertain times. And yes, it represented a change in direction from Sound of White Noise. But it was a shift born of pragmatism and a desire to stay metal. You see, only one metal band seemed immune to the flannel-clad plague and actually saw their popularity increase in the 90s. That band was Pantera. And after touring with them and seeing their metal stock continue to appreciate, Anthrax either consciously or unconsciously decided to mimic their oh-so-manly moho. Even a cursory spin of Stomp shows a stark shift toward Pantera-esque riffing and their stripped-down, bare-knuckle aesthetic. Hell, they even got Dimebag Darrell to lend solos to the damn album. You can knock them for jumping on the bandwagon, but at least the wagon they picked up had metal wheels. Yes, I'm looking at you, Dave Mustaine.
Ooh.
At the same time, they didn't abandon their old sound entirely, and the album is dotted with references back to the Sound of White Noise and Persistence of Time. You know, he makes a good point. What do you think, Coop?
I think that I finally found that Destruction album I was talking about. 1998's The Least Successful Human Cannonball. It's
an interesting title.
The logo is in like really boring font that just says Destruction, and it's got a guy standing with his head in a wooden cannon, except it looks like it's a toy.
Pretty bad, huh?
Oh God, it is like the Montezuma's Revenge. Those metal albums. Between that and there was a Massacre album that was an absolute fucking dog that was released in '98. But as for this album here, I mean, I could see some people defending it. I mean, there is definitely a reason why they did what they did. I just really feel like it was a lame attempt and a bad choice. But yeah, Pantera.
I think we would be remiss then without mentioning what Pantera released in the 90s. There was Cowboys from Hell, which was their departure from the power metal scene into what we know them as. That was 1990. Yes. Vulgar Display of Power went like double platinum in the U.S., platinum in Australia, and then gold in Canada and the UK. That was 1992, and that's the album that really projected Pantera into the higher echelons of metal fandom. But it was far beyond Driven in 1994 that made them basically a household name. So I mean, to go off of this guy's point, if you're Anthrax and you're watching, your relativity fall as the 80s turned into the 90s, and up comes Pantera, who releases 3 increasingly angry, amazing, popular albums in a 4-year span, 1990, 1992, 1994. I mean, I can see where they would start to, try to mold themselves into this sort of vein. By the way, the Great Southern Trendkill still sucks. Oh, wow. That was 1996. Yeah, and continuing my streak of albums that made me not want to live on this planet anymore. All right. Moving on. We are down to the last two songs here, and boy, is this last one a doozy. This is number 10. This is Tester. Yeah, we can feel you there, John. Oy. Coop, Tester, track 10. Because I'm running low here on energy.
This song really tested my patience.
Yeah.
Yeah, this song wasn't really all that offensive in any way to my ears. It wasn't great. Really a waste of time. I would say it kind of contributes to this album ending on kind of a low note, but this album has more low notes than an all-bass a cappella group, so yeah, just you wait. Once you hit the next track, that's really gonna be the brake slam that ruined the underwear.
Oof. Well,
right.
You know,
that was a new one. I was impressed.
Reading the lyrics to this song, I'm trying to determine whether this is a song about some guy who's, talking to some girl and pretty much saying, hey, I'm the guy you want to be with. This other guy, he's going to be a jerk. You're going to love him and leave him within a day. Or this is a song that supposedly is talking about how original Anthrax is. Okay? Now, I may be stretching it here, but when you look at it that way, that he's trying to say, let me go ahead and read. Test your new model and see. Test your new model against the original. I'm the man you want to be, so test your new model, and once again, you fail me. But it just seems like what they're trying to say is, hey, we're Anthrax. We're the originality here. You guys don't want to go anywhere else because this is where it's at. This is the originality. We're Anthrax. Okay? Now, what even makes this that much more hilarious is when you look at it that way, and then let's play this next fucking song and just see how original these motherfuckers are.
All right. All right, before I die here, this is our last track of the night. This is track 11. This is Bear.
the space that was left in.
Was it everything you imagined to send this album off into the great annals of Anthrax history?
So I've said a couple of times now on this show, like, my state of mind and what I thought about music back in 1995. And I wasn't the cool, collected, full of wisdom, middle-aged man that I am today. I was a young punk. I was a young punk full of piss and vinegar.
Oh, no.
I was mad at the world. I was mad at the world, and I'm pretty sure this album didn't help. That's really all I have to say. I mean, I think we talked a lot about context, where this album came from. I forgive them, but this album is this will be the last time I listen to this album. There's no going back. Go ahead, Cooper. I know you're trying to sit in here.
Oh, no, I'm just sitting there making fun of you when you say middle-aged man, because there's going to be someday I'm going to be a middle-aged man if I make it that long, and some young fucker is going to be like, stupid old fuck. So, anywho, I would say that this song here is about as original as Pete's brother Repeat.
Nice.
Yeah, see, I'm already halfway to middle-aged man with my jokes.
Yeah, dude, you're fucking there, man. If you're just basing it off of the dad jokes that you drop on this piece.
Oh, dude, I am like spitting hot fire with my dad jokes.
No fucking doubt.
Yeah, I am. Oh, Jesus, I'm like the floor. I'm lava.
Bing.
Sorry, I'm tickled at that one. Anywho, yeah, this last track here, I see what they were doing. It did not work. Very much like the least successful Human Cannonball. Overall, this song is just an indication of this album and the metal scene, the mainstream metal scene in the U.S. at this time. Toothless, lost, really had no direction and no hope because, sure, Metallica did it, but Metallica's different. I mean, yeah, Metallica is the band. And you get, like, Megadeth, which is, like, 1B. And beyond that, it's, like, nothing. It's like Alice in Chains and Pantera, and that's it. So, yeah. I mean, it's sad, really. Overall, final score on this one, 1 out of 5. Just 1 star, which that was only because, like, I could at least, there's context to this. I see why they did it. It makes sense for the time in terms of being in a big record and trying to stay afloat. Artistically, I fully disagree with what they were doing, but Scott Ian has a wonderful beard. And
he does.
Is such a man, he could do his own spoken word tour, and I cannot. So I think he won in the end.
Okay, final thoughts on this song right here. You could obviously probably figure out what I thought of it there before we even hit the track. Just feels like, I don't know, just does not go with what I believe Anthrax has, come to this earth for. This is not what I was used to. So it's kind of a shock to hear something like this ended. Now, again, this is 2016. We're 21 years outside of when this dropped. We did look at the bands and some of the great albums that were released the year and in the year before. So I can't do much other than echo what you guys have already said. This is a band that was struggling to find its place. They're trying to get a foothold in. I want to see some Metallica money. Let's bring that shit over here. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure that's what they felt like. So it's they took a swing and missed with this album. That's about all there is to it. They tried to do what they could to try and gain some fans. It's just so far from originality and what they started out as. It's unfortunate. So as for a turkey, gobble, gobble, eat it up, folks.
All right.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead since you guys gave it a rating. This is like maybe a 3 out of 10 if I were to give it a letter grade. It's a D. Look, I can't give it an F. It's not like they don't know how to play their instruments. They just on this album they just didn't play them very originally, and it felt very forced. And a lot of it was very samey. And it doesn't hold up. I mean, like some of these albums you listen to and it's like, oh, they were ahead of their time. This is like the opposite problem. It not only wasn't relevant when it came out, but it also doesn't hold up. Like I can't listen to it now and think to myself, this was kind of shit when it came out at the time, but you listen to it back now and okay, it holds up. It's pretty good. And nope, it's fucking horrible. It's just unforgivable.
It's a nope.
I'm going to. I will go ahead and say it's unlistenable.
Where's he at? We need that soundbite.
We really do. I should upload that. Unlistenable. And so with that said, I think we've reached the end of our rope here, as it were. Yesterday, just because of the odd schedule, we did our third installment of the Harry Potter series. We've had Sean's ex-girlfriend on, Alexis Hana, who's our Harry Potter expert. So go ahead, and she's really brought a lot of good stuff to the podcast. Go ahead and check that out. We did some election night coverage last Tuesday, and then I got sick the next day. It wasn't because Trump got elected. It was because I stayed up too late, and then I had to get up for work the next day. So,
and there you went ahead and spoiled it. Now everybody knows what's going to happen at the end of your YouTube live there. Way to go.
Spoiler alert, Trump became president. So we decided not to review Opeth. Cooper ended up deciding that we were going to do Dark Throne instead, and then I just called out sick. It's a new podcast for me. So you can go back and listen to that Metal Hammer of Doom episode. Just the Cooper and Jesse without me, which is fine. Tomorrow, the reason why we had to move around some shows was because I'll be going to the movies to see Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, which we'll be reviewing the following Tuesday on Damn You Hollywood. And as I said, the next two shows, and this is why we did a Thanksgiving show tonight, not next week. Metallica's Hardwired to Self-Destruct comes out this Friday. It's a double album, so we're going to break that into two shows. Do the first album on the 23rd, the day before Thanksgiving. Homecoming night, as it were. Hopefully it doesn't mess with your guys' plans too much. I know you guys are into the homecoming, right? Going to go out of the bars and drink the night before? Is that's the plan?
Oh, yeah, we're party animals.
Yeah, right.
And then we'll finish up with the second album of Hardwired to Self-Destruct on November 30th. So that's what we got going on right now. There was also a quick change to the schedule in December. Originally, we had set the year-end spectacular for the 21st. But then I got in that Oakley Dokley. This is the Ned Flanders inspired band actually has their debut album Howdly Doodly. It's been released, and I couldn't let the year pass without reviewing this album, so I rearranged the calendar slightly. We're going to review Oakley Dokley's Howdly Doodly on December 21st, and that's going to move our year-end spectacular to the 28th. So we're going out with a bang here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network. It's going to be a busy week. We'll have Damn You Hollywood with Sean on to review Assassin's Creed. We'll have our year-end spectacular, and then Damn You Hollywood again with our 2016 year review, where I'm going to revisit all the times this year I wanted to not be on this planet with people because of the constant nonsense.
Bad.
But before all of that, we're also going to review Helmet Built to Last and the new Superjoint caught up in the gears of application. So I've gotten some really good stuff here. Going into next year, I have a couple of things on the calendar, not a whole lot, just because we don't know what's going to be released just yet. There's been a couple of things, but not a lot. I know at some point we were penciling in a show that Jesse and I talked about. Actually, Cooper and I talked about it as well. It was something that we're going to get to eventually. Instead of doing a retrospective in January, while we wait for things to come out, on the 18th, and this might be our first show of the year. I haven't decided yet, but if it is, we're going to be starting off with a bang. It's going to be clutch, as I'm calling it, deep cuts, B-side, and cover. I put together a playlist. Jesse's going to put together a playlist, and then from that playlist, Robert Cooper is going to select the songs that we're going to play on the show. That's how we decided we were going to do this, right?
Not exactly. More along the lines of me and you are going to pick some songs, and then I think we each get 3, maybe 4, I can't remember, and then we give Coop a list of ones that we would want to play. He has to listen to them and pick the ones he likes the best. So we get 4 apiece, and then he gets to pick 4.
So, yeah, there you go. You get 4 choices from me, 4 choices from Jesse, and then 4 choices from Cooper based on the ones we nominated.
There you go.
So that show is scheduled for Wednesday, January 18th, 2017. It may or may not be our first show of the year. And I think the only other thing I've penciled in at this point is on February 14th, Marilyn Manson's releasing Say 10. We will be reviewing it on February 22nd. So, that was the other reason why I wanted to talk about this. One album I know is going to be released in the same month. Steel Panther, Lower the Bar, is for release February 24th. We are scheduled to review it on March 1st. So I'm looking forward to that. So we got
I hope we get a sequel to She's on the Rag.
Oh, we can only hope.
What is it going to be called, Coop?
Menopause.
Oh, boy.
No, waka waka. I'm looking at the January calendar. Real quick. Right now I can tell you I'm just looking at what's already set for release. They've updated the calendar. In February, there's new Overkill coming out, so you can expect that's going to be on the calendar. January, right now, the only thing that's been released is on the 13th, Blood Feast, Gravedigger, and Sepultura all have new albums coming out. On the 20th, Once Human, and on the 27th, Creator, Stephen Piercy, and Xandria. Any of those jump out at you, Coop? Anything you want to do there?
I mean, plenty of them. Creator, of course. All right, that was a given. Creator, that's a good one. Sepultura. There's another one. There's a few of them that kind of stood out to me. But if we were going to do one, definitely Creator.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and say no on the Sepultura because that comes out on the 13th. But you know what? Tell you what. I'll change my mind on that. Let's go ahead and move Clutch back a week. Move this over here, and we'll do the Sepultura record on the 18th, and then on February 1st we can review that sound.
Sounds good to me. This first quarter, is going to be a ton of shit I've never listened to. A lot of bands I've never listened to. Well, you guys know my experience with Sepultura. So you said one of them was called Creator. Never heard of it, right?
With a K, yeah.
Never heard of them. Overkill, I've heard of them, seen a couple shirts, never listened to anything. I can't wait. Hopefully there'll be a Lordy in there that I really love, like something like Lordy. I'll be like, holy shit, these guys are awesome.
There's some good stuff.
I look forward to it.
All right, Creator, Gods of Violence. That's the album that's coming out. January 27th is what it's scheduled for, so I'll go ahead and put that on the calendar right now. All right, while I'm doing all this, Jesse, go ahead and do your plugs.
Okay. Folks, give the Radulich and Broadcasting Network Facebook page a like to stay up on top of all the great podcasts that we have to offer. Myself, I do a show here on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network called Source Material, where we discuss a lot of, we basically discuss comic book stories, some of the good ones and some of the bad ones. Most recently, did a one-off interview with Benjamin J. Cologne and split that up into 3 nice bite-sized interviews that are all airing this week. This most recent episode was Monday, and where we talked about Benjamin J. Cologne going to New York Comic Con as an exhibitor and all the great stuff that he got to see, including cosplay and some of the stuff that he ran into up there. This tomorrow will be the second part of the interview where me and him talk about his encounters with Stan the Man Lee. We say encounters. It was more like him standing in a line and trying to stay alive. That's a lot of fun. And then the third part is where me and Benjamin talk about the passing of preacher artist Steve Dillon, and kind of do a little bit of a list where I hop on there and we look at some panels, some of the great pages that Steve Dillon did, and I got Benjamin J. Cologne's input on Steve Dillon's influence on himself, of which he attributes a lot to Preacher and Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon's work on there. So check it out. Real easy episodes to, like I said, maybe 30 minutes long at most. So check it out. That's what we got on the agenda right now for Source Material. And that is, if you want to check me out on Screaming Boy, we should have something up this coming Saturday, I think. So kind of watch for that. And that is about it.
Cool. I assume that means cool. Sensei Rider Podcast, SENTARIDER Podcast. Find us on Facebook. Have we done anything in 2 years? No. Can we? Maybe. I want to do something. I've got time off. My co-host has currently just moved apartments and all that, so it's a little wonky for him. We'll figure something out. Yeah. But, yeah, we keep getting fans, and I don't know why. There's this podcast, of course. And then finally, what was it? Oh, shit. Fuck. Give me a second. Oh, WCMnet.com. No, not Tijuana, numbnuts. WCMnet.com. My buddy Sean Garner. His stuff. Lots of good wrestling, video game, sports podcasts. Yeah, love the guy. Nicest guy in the world. He hosts our shit. I'm at the door, so I'm going to go now. But, yeah, plugs. That's it.
Alrighty. I've pretty much done my plugs here. Look, my voice is going out, so thanks everybody for tuning in. We enjoyed the show. Sorry for the sound issues, whatever they were. We'll see you next week for Metallica. Until then, be well, be safe, and behave.